Bentornati Tifosi Napolitani to the Far From Vesuvius podcast. I'm your host, Raffa, and in this edition, we have our second Europa League frenemy for our next opponent, Spartak Moscow. And the doctor is in. Yes, Henry Bell with us today for another fun segment. Il Dottore bringing the fun lately. You'll love this cool interactive idea that he has as he lists his first team sheet, but I enjoyed it thoroughly. Our frenemy today is a gentleman by the name of David Sansun, who is not necessarily a Spartak fan. I've reached out to a lot of Spartak English-speaking fans and haven't really gotten anything back. But once again, our friend Frank at Seria_Ost comes through for us. David is actually a Rubin Kazan fan from the UK, and you'll love the story of how he became a fan of Kazan, which led him to be Russian football connoisseur and lover. He was incredibly gracious enough to come in and share his knowledge and insight on Spartak Moscow. Also, shout out to Spartak English Twitter at FCSM_English. You guys want to give them a follow. It's the official Spartak Twitter account in English. They've shown us so much love and they're very witty. Please check them out. But before we bring David in to talk all things Spartak Moscow, let's check in on the other teams in our Europa League Group C. While Napoli hosts Victor Moses, another Nigerian international, and former Ajax man Quincy Promes' Spartak Moscow at the Maradona for Matchday 2, Leicester City will travel to Warsaw, Poland to play Legia, who surprisingly go into this matchday top of the group as they defeated Spartak 1-0 with a stoppage time goal by Lirim Kastrati after being outplayed by the Russians. Of course, you all know Napoli pulled off a great remonta against Leicester with Osimhen's first 2 goals of the season, and since we all know how we've done, and since we'll talk with David about Spartak in a little bit and how they've performed since then, let's take a look at Leicester City and Legia Warsaw. Leicester have played in 2 league matches since then, first losing to Brighton 2-1. In that match, they were down 2-0, and then coming from behind twice to draw with Burnley. Jamie Vardy, who only saw 2 minutes plus stoppages versus us, scored all 3 goals for Leicester City in both matches and opened the scoring in the match versus Burnley. But as an own goal for Burnley, he made it up with the 2 goals to earn the draw, but couldn't get the W for them. Leicester City now sit 13th on 7 points from 6 matches. They did defeat Millwall 2-0 in the Carabao Cup round 3, with goals by Ademola Lookman and Nigerian Kaleki Iheanacho. Legia sit 2 points behind the drop in the Polish Ekstraklasa with 9 points from 7 played, but are still with 2 matches in hand. A 3-1 win versus last place Górnik Lechna and a 3-2 loss versus Raków Częstochowa, who sit 3 points from the top with a match in hand. Goals in the win come from Ernest Muki, Mahir Emreli, and an own goal. And in the loss, again from Emreli and one from Igor Karatin. Both matches, Napoli Spartak and Legia versus Leicester, can be seen on Paramount Plus in the States at 12:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow, September 30th. I won't keep you guys waiting anymore. Let's bring our Spartak Russian football frenemy, David, followed by the doctor, and I'll be back to close things up, guys. Enjoy. Okay, Tifosi, welcome in our Russian football correspondent. I guess we can call him that now, but he is representing Spartak Moscow this week. His Twitter says he does Russian football things for at Russ Football News. His name is David Sansun. David, how are you today, my friend? Thank you for joining.
No problem. I'm well. Thank you very much for having me on.
No problem. I was going to ask you because, I've had a really tough time trying to, and I've been preparing since our last Europa League match to try to find somebody who's can speak, on behalf of Spartak Moscow in English.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a whole bunch of accounts, but nobody would get back to me. So our friend Frank at Seria_Aus, he pointed me right to you right away and said, "Get this guy. He might be able to help." So thank you again for coming in. And I was going to ask you who your team is since you're not a Spartak supporter, but your Twitter shows it right here. So Rubin Kazan, I'm guessing.
Yes, that's right. They're what got me into Russian football all those years ago. And they had a famous win against Barcelona. You may well know.
Yes,
that was that. That was my gateway, as it was. But yeah, I follow all the Russian teams as best as I can, as a hobby and a bit of work on the side sometimes if the chance arises. So yeah.
I'm very intrigued by that, actually. Is there any Russian in your blood? Do you have any ties to Russia at all?
No, not at all. It was that, and then that match. I was like, who the hell are Rubin Kazan? I've never heard of him. Immediately went on to play FIFA on the PlayStation and Football Manager on the PC, and that was that. I got into the world of Russian football, and now I've been to Russia, went to the World Cup over there. Can speak a bit of Russian, everything. Yeah, it's developed into this 10-year fascination, I suppose.
That's incredible. It's an incredible story. And it's funny to think that because that it's so incredible because there are a lot of English, British, Australian. I mean, maybe more Australians have ties to Italy because there are a lot of Italians in Australia, but there's so many people that I've met that are infatuated with Napoli and infatuated with Italian football that have no ties at all to Italy. So, it's not that incredible to think that someone would just gravitate to a sort of, it's just maybe because the Russian league is not as high up in the rankings or high up in everybody's,
it's very niche.
Yeah, exactly, extremely niche. But it is still amazing that, I love to hear stories like that. But we're here to talk. But actually, you know what? Before we go on, how are Rubin Kazan doing? What's their position in the standing?
I believe we're 7th right now. We'd started well this season. We'd qualified for the UEFA Conference League, the new competition, but we got knocked out in the qualifiers, unfortunately. But we've got a nice squad, good young players in there, and hopefully we can go again for Europe this season. That's a bit of a tough streak, but enough about them.
Just check them: 9 matches, 4 wins, 2 draws, 3 losses, 14 points, which is 1 place for 7th place, 1 place better than Napoli's opponents on Thursday, Spartak Moscow. They are sitting in 8th, 13 points. So that's a bit of a rough start to the season for Spartak. Played really well. I watched the match against Legia Warsaw. That was a Wednesday to kick off the Europa League this season. Played really well. But couldn't get the win against them. Legia scoring in the 91st minute to defeat Spartak. Napoli, they come to Naples, and Napoli are flying high. 6 wins of 6. The draw against Leicester in the Europa League from behind. How do you see Spartak approaching this match against Napoli on Thursday?
Well, I mean, as you said, Spartak's struggling. They changed manager in the summer, not by their own choice. Their previous manager was homesick and went back to Germany, and he'd done a really good job for them. The new manager has not settled well at all. So when the groups are drawn, it was highly pessimistic reaction from the wider media. You know, no one was giving Spartak a chance, and the Legia game was meant to be. Okay, Legia at home is the game Spartak have to win because it's in theory the easiest game. And,
Sure.
You know, they didn't. They went out there, they dominated possession, but created very few good chances. Had loads of shots, but they were all terrible shots. And they were caught out at the end. And there are wider reasons past the manager that stem within Russian football. You know, there were players on the pitch who are there just because they have a Russian passport, and there are limits within the league, which means they're only at Spartak still because of their passport. But in terms of just form in general, they're really struggling to adapt to the new manager. They have won, I think, both games in the league since. They certainly won this last weekend. But they're really struggling to get things going.
Yes, Spartak won their last match 2-0. But they did lose to Spartak Moscow before that, and so in their last 5, they're 2 wins and 3 losses in all competitions. So a little bit of a tough start for them. Not very many moves in the transfer market either. From what I can see, the only thing they did was make Victor Moses a permanent signing.
But that sounds about right.
Right.
They added a centre back at the end. They lost. I mean, the big thing was that they lost Alex Krau. He went off and joined West Ham towards the end of the transfer window, and they didn't really get a chance to replace him. There was talk that they maybe were going to lose one of their defenders, but it didn't happen. But the squad still has some weak spots. On paper, you know, it's the same as last season. We know those who follow Rush Ball know that this squad is good. You know, players like Quincy Promes, Jordan Larson, Victor Moses last season all those 3 were fantastic. In fact, all 3 of Spartak's strikers in the league last season scored over 10 goals. So all 3 of them playing in rotation. They usually play with 2 up front. All of them were in the goals constantly. This season, they just cannot score for love nor money. Really struggling to get things going in the attacking department. You know, we put it down to the new manager. You know, different language, different tactics being played. It's notoriously difficult for foreign managers to do well in Russia. And it just seems like he's having that. Rui Vitória as the manager is struggling with that adaptation period. And on the pitch, it's not good. He's made some weird choices, players playing who aren't good. And there are definitely players being left on the bench who are better on occasions. But the squad, there was definitely people thinking there should have been more done in the window for them. That's for sure.
Right. So what do you expect from this match with Napoli? A loss on at home against Legia. They travel now to Napoli, and then they play back-to-back against Leicester City. They could find themselves in a real hole here. Are they pulling out all the stops against Napoli here? They've got to win. What do you see happening on the pitch?
The way, I mean, I don't follow Napoli closely, but I know that Victor Osimhen is on fantastic form right now. And that does scare me against Spartak's defence. You know, I might not support Spartak, but we still want them to win for coefficient points and so on.
Sure. That was going to be my next question, actually.
Because Russia have really slipped. And, you know, 2 seasons ago, Russia were 5th in the coefficients. And at the moment, I think they're due to be 10th or 11th. They've really, like last year, no teams won in the group stage of the Europa League. And I think similarly the year before, it's been two very, very bad years. So we're looking for something to change. But I think it's going to be really tough at Spartak. They're going to probably go defensive against Napoli away, as I think most people would probably expect. The defence, particularly on the fullbacks, I think they'll have to be on their prime to give Spartak a fighting chance. They're good going forward, two excellent going forward fullbacks, but defensively they can be susceptible to mistakes. And then they'll just be trying to counter with Larsson and Promise, which I believe they're both fit. I think the only player missing is in midfield, Roman Zobnin, who would usually be first choice in there. He's injured. He's out for 3 or 4 weeks, I believe. So that'll be a big miss in the middle of the pitch because he's all energy, all running, Russian international. But I imagine it'll be defensive, but the outlook's not looking too good when you consider the form and the opponent. That's for sure.
So the thing with the opponent is Napoli are a team that historically can't really compete on two levels. I think this season is a very different feel with manager Luciano Spalletti. I believe, in my opinion, and it could also be fact, this is the deepest Napoli have been in a very, very long time. And if the injuries are less and minimalized, unlike last season under Gennaro Gattuso, I think Napoli have a chance to go ahead and compete on more than one level. So in my opinion, my approach would be to start, maybe rotate 3 or 4 players, not heavily. But a lot of Napoli fans are calling for heavy rotation to make sure that they continue their league form. 6 of 6 is their second best start in history. So the fact that it's a Russian team, Napoli, that's another thing. Napoli don't really have a history with Russian teams. The last time they played anybody from Russia, I believe, was in the 2014-15 Europa League, where we went to the semifinal, and on the way we knocked out I couldn't even tell you who it was. I had it here and lost it. It was that's okay. It's Dynamo Moscow. Knocked them out of the round of 16 in 2014-15 on a 3-1 aggregate. And then before that, it was Europa, UEFA Cup 75-76 Torpedo Moscow, and 78-79 Dynamo Tbilisi, I guess, was Russian at the time. I guess that's
in the old Soviet League, yeah.
Right, in the old Soviets. So as far as Russian competition goes, and they were knocked out of both of those competitions by those teams. So historically, Napoli have only been able to win one set of ties, but it's an unknown. It's a relatively unknown, and any team coming in for Europe is tough. So Napoli are very wary of that. So if you're hoping for a Spartak result, you might just get it there. But and like I said, I was going to ask you before. So as far as Russian teams in Europe, even though you're a Rubin Kazan fan, you are generally cheering for these teams to do good so that you can move up in the coefficients, right? So, tell me, were you around for the Zenit St. Petersburg, Luciano Spalletti era? Like, was that something that you missed, or was that something that in your love for Russian football you researched back and checked out? Because I believe they won, and I don't know if it was under Spalletti, but they won a couple of UEFA Cups, did they not?
They certainly won one. I believe in 2008 they won the UEFA Cup, just before my time. But it was, they had a peak team with Andrei Arshavin as one of the stars of that team. Pavel Pogrebniak, who both those guys went on to play in the Premier League. I know they had a fantastic run that season. They also then won the Super Cup the following season against Manchester United, the European Super Cup.
That's right.
So yeah, and if we go back I think 4 years before that, in 2005 or six, CSK Moscow also won the UEFA Cup. They beat Benfica Sporting, I think Sporting Lisbon in the final. But yeah, in recent years it's been a struggle. I think the year that sort of underlines the luck that Russian clubs have had. CSK Moscow were in the Champions League 3 years ago. They lost 4 games of 1-2. They beat Real Madrid home and away, one of the only clubs to ever have done that, but they still went out and finished last in their group.
Unbelievable.
But I think the furthest any club has got was CSK Moscow. They were knocked out by Arsenal, which is my UK-based team. I think in 2017, and since then I think all the teams have struggled to get past the group stages. Unfortunately, it's just been a very, very poor downturn in results, especially in the last 2 years. A horrific. I mean, if you look at the points, it's dreadful. Things need to change on a wider level, which would start with allowing more foreigners to play and strengthening the league and domestically. But and things are moving in that direction potentially. The age argument is that when Zenit won the league, there was when the UEFA Cup there were restrictions then. But football around the world has strengthened. There's a team from Moldova in the Champions League group stages, teams from Sweden, teams from River, and Russian teams have not gone up in strength at the same rate, I think, as the rest of Europe. The money isn't there particularly. The infrastructure is decent in some places, good in some places, but poor in a lot of places. So yeah, there's plenty of issues which define why Russian clubs are struggling. And a lot of people in Russia will not be wanting Spartak to win, because if you don't support Spartak, they are the enemy. They're the biggest club, and therefore, if you don't support them, you hate them technically. So their struggles are usually quite well enjoyed by the rest of the league.
Kind of like Juventus over here in Italy, but absolutely. Spartak Moscow champions as recently as 2016-17 under Italian manager Massimo Carrera. I do remember seeing that and being quite happy about an Italian winning abroad, another Italian winning abroad. As like I said, Spalletti's gone to Zenit and won over there too. But as far as Rubin Kazan goes for yourself, have you been able to celebrate success? I'm trying to look up as we speak here, check to see when the last time Rubin Kazan had won anything. Were you able to celebrate like a cup or what was your favorite moment?
They'd won the league twice just before I got into the Russian football. They beat Barcelona. Obviously, they were in the Champions League. They won the league back to back. They've not won the league since. They've been in Europe a handful of times. I think the last time before this season was 2015-16, where they were in the Europa League groups. They played against Liverpool and Bordeaux, and but the last silverware we had was, I think, the cup in 2013. It's been a rough and tumble few years. We've had bits of hope. In 2016 we spent 40 million euros on a bunch of players. Alex Song, the biggest name, came across at that stage, but it didn't go well, and we got hit by FFP regulations. We're actually banned from Europe for 2 years because of that. Wow. Well, it was at the same time that Manchester City were not banned for the same reason. So there was a lot of people siding with us on that one, because we'd cleared the debts by that point. But it's been a big rebuild. We've got a good manager in charge now, the manager who discovered Martin Odegaard.
Wow.
Through.
Okay.
There's a nice core there. We've got a very young squad, and we managed to get into Europe this season, but the games just came at the wrong time for the squad. We were missing a few players, and we went out to another Polish side, actually, the team with the second place team from Poland. which was a huge shame. If we had a fully fit squad, I think we'd have gotten through and had a chance for the groups. But we go again. We try for next season.
That's right. So that's pretty much it. I mean, I see Zenit is leading the league with 23. Do you see them running away with the league this season, or do you think Spartak has a chance to get up there? Do you think Rubin Kazan has a chance to get up there? What are your hopes for qualification for your team, Rubin Kazan? We'll give respect to your team. I mean, that's your team. We can talk about them as well, but also for Spartak. What are you thinking the chances are having these two teams get up into Europe for next season?
I mean, at the current rate, Spartak's chances are looking not too good. I mean, behind Zenit, there's usually a huge race. We only have 4 spots for Europe, I believe now. It used to be 5. Yes. And in theory, there's 8 or 9 teams who could easily qualify for those spots. It's usually very tight behind the top couple of teams. We had a period where I think 4 different teams won the league in four years. Siska, Spartak, Lokomotiv, then Zenit, and Rostov had come second actually at one point, and then they went to the Champions League, and they lost. They literally have one save from Igor Akinfeev that cost them one save in the 88th minute of the last game of the season, cost them the title. So it was very competitive, but Zenit have injected a bit of money the last couple of years. They have some big players like Malcolm from Barcelona. They have a good Brazilian core, and they did okay against Chelsea in the Champions League last week. Only lost 1-0 at Stamford Bridge. So yeah, they are comfortably the best team. Lokomotiv Moscow are also undefeated this season, but they've drawn a lot. But they're good. They can grind out wins, and in theory, they're the closest rivals in terms of quality. But yeah, it's going to be tight. But Zenit should run away with it again.
Right. You mentioned the 4 spaces in the for European qualification. The way it's lined out right now is that obviously the champions qualify to the Champions League group stage, and then second place gets the 3rd qualifying round in the Champions League. And there's not even a direct entry into the Europa League. Qualification to the Conference League, 3rd qualifying stage for 3rd place, and 2nd qualifying stage for 4th. I'm assuming cup winners would get and
if the cup winner is already qualified, then it goes to 5th place, which has actually happened, I think, for the last 3 or 4 years. Right. Which is how Rubin got in.
It's kind of normally how it is, especially in Italy too. It's right now 5th place for Europa League, 6th place goes to the Conference League, but if the Coppa Italia winners finish in Europe, it goes to the next place down. So there you go.
Yep.
All right. Well, David, I want to thank you again very, very much for joining us for, a couple minutes here to take some time and talk about a team that you don't necessarily support, but you can see your passion for Russian football through the screen that I see you in right now. And I really admire that. I'd love to chat with you again sometime soon. We'll check up on Spartak again. Maybe next time we have to play them. I believe we play Spartak again. So then it's Legia Warsaw. So Spartak would be Wednesday, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving in the States here. And I think that's a Wednesday because Spartak play, and so do the other Moscow team, Lokomotiv, on this, in the same fixture at home. So we'll have to play you on Wednesday that week. So
I know it won't be too late in the year because winter weather, they try to get all the Moscow games out of the way as early as possible usually. But it'll still be cold.
Yeah, yes, it will. So I want to thank you again for coming on. I really appreciate you, and good luck. Good luck to Rubin Kazan. Good luck to Spartak. Good luck to Russian teams in European football, David.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Yeah, no problem. Ciao, ciao.
viva sempre, stai contenta. Io non penso che a te sola, no pensiero mi consola che tu
Ciao ragazzi, I hope everyone's doing well. It's Dr. Henry Bell speaking. And today I'm going to be going through an exercise which you can follow along at home if you want. We've had a great start to the season. We've had 6 wins out of 6. Beautiful. I think we tend to start seasons well, and I'm just going to enjoy the ride. The debate is heating up, isn't it, about whether we're going to win a Scudetto or not, and people are starting to get a bit tetchy with each other on the old social media. I mean, it's great to have different opinions on this stuff, but don't forget to actually enjoy the football. That's my piece of unasked for advice, because the football itself, the thing itself, is absolutely fantastic at the moment, isn't it? I really enjoyed the game against Cagliari. Some of you might have listened to me talk to my Sardinian in-laws about this. My mother-in-law, Marza, she was not confident about Cagliari's chances. And as with many things, she was proven correct. But anyway, the game's been analysed really well by Raffa, and there's a lot out there. Osimhen getting a lot of praise, digesting all the responses to everything. People are really waking up to the fact that Osimhen is one of the best strikers in Europe. And ADL got criticised for spending all that money on him, but starting to look quite intelligent. I hope, and I'll get on with what we're going to be talking about in a second, but my big hope is that we hang on to Osimhen for 3-4 years. I think Cavani leaving, he left too soon, and if he stayed, I think Juventus don't win 9 Scudetti in a row. And there was an opportunity that he missed. To be fair, he didn't see it coming, but Osimhen has a chance to stay maybe 4 or 5 years, really establish himself as loved in, in my opinion, the greatest footballing city in the world, Napoli, and then he can go and earn mega bucks. Hopefully with some silverware under his belt. So people are kind of saying, he's the next £100 million player, and I'm sure he will command that fee. But we've got a lot to offer, and let's see if we can really hang on to him. Anyway, so there's been a few conversations, and I'm recording this on Tuesday afternoon, and been a few conversations about squad rotation and squad depth, and I think people are really cottoning on to the fact that we have one of the best squads in the league, and we actually have had the best squad, one of the best squads in the league for many years now. If anything, we're underachieving, and there's been various conversations about rotation, and because we haven't really rotated hugely, we've rotated Politano and Lozano, and there's been a few changes because of injury with Zelinski, etc., etc., etc. But we haven't really flexed our muscles on the squad, and we're going to be playing Spartak Moscow on Thursday, and hopefully we'll start to see that rotation. Because really, from my perspective, and Nima on the Italian Football Podcast, which is a great podcast, if you haven't checked it out, they summarise things brilliantly. And Nima was it Nima? It was Carlo. Carlo on the pod was saying that we should just give up on the Europa League and concentrate on Serie A. Now, I would like to politely disagree with that perspective. We all remember the Scudetto Pact of Sarri, and it's just not, for me, how professional sport works. You can't switch a winning mentality on and off. And, and we saw how that happened, and we lost the Scudetto in a hotel room in Florence. And I think partly it's because that winning mentality, that the psychology of winning wasn't in that team. And I think the fact that there was a competition which we were so openly not interested in, our European competition, that is not healthy for a elite team sport mindset. That's just my personal opinion. So I think we have a squad that can compete on both, and we should take it seriously. But okay, so today, and the exercise of today is, what is the order that we write the team sheet down in? Okay, so people always say, there's one of my favourite podcasts, another football podcast that I like is Football Cliches, which is, I find, really funny, very sort of dry, sardonic, amusing podcast, really about the language and the trends in football communication. And it sort of highlights some of the ridiculousness of it, but also kind of celebrates it as well. And, you know, one of the great football cliches is he's the first name on the team sheet. And there's been a few people talking about Napoli in this sense, in terms of like who is our first name on the team sheet. And, you know, we're kind of entering into a different era of the club now. And who are the actual important cogs in this machine? So let's work it out. Let's write down the best starting 11 that Napoli have in the order in which we think they should be on that team sheet. You know, pause the podcast now, write down from 1 to 11. 1 is the first name, 11 is the last name. And then come back to me, okay? Press pause. And welcome back. I hope you enjoyed writing that list down. So, who is the first name on the Napoli team sheet? We have to put ourselves in the shoes of Luciano Spalletti. And, okay, who are you going to put first on the team sheet? For me, it is a no-brainer. The first name on my team sheet is Kalidou Koulibaly, second best player in the history of Napoli, and is so important to us. I think ahead of anybody else in the Napoli side. If he isn't in the team, I worry. Anybody else, I think will be all right. Even Osimhen, with the form that he's in, or Insigne's form. You know, we've got players that aren't as good as those players, but we can make it work. With Koulibaly, if he's not in the team, I'm nervous. We've got, you know, Manolas as a backup, but he just makes me nervous as a player. He's never calm on the ball. I don't feel like he can have the authority. And you get those, I mean, it's a real sign of a great player that they have a kind of, particularly in a defensive position like Koulibaly's, they have a calming presence around them. You know, there's all those memes of him throwing Mario Rio around and stuff like that. But he is somebody who I think we're seeing the other players look to. And there's been, you know, next time you watch Napoli, right, just have a look at Koulibaly after a goal has been scored or at half-time or before the match starts. Such a senior role and calms everybody down. And he's just incredible. I mean, some of his play against Cagliari, and I know they were absolutely terrible, but dispossessing, taking the ball into the opposition half, and absolutely calm under pressure. So he's my first name on the team sheet. Okay, so number 2, no surprises here, Victor James Osimhen. I'd said his full name because, you know, he's the Prince of Naples. 6 goals in 6 games, most informed striker in Europe. The league has woken up to see him. I spoke about him before, so I'm not going to go on about him too much. One point that's a really good point that P. Salad mentioned on Twitter. A lot of people worrying about the African Cup of Nations, but if you look at the fixtures for that period, they're really not as bad as you might think. So, and I think it's great that our players are playing in international tournaments. Let's hope he wins it. Comes back. Imagine he comes back, he wins the African Cup of Nations, and who knows, he might win a few things with us. Next up, and it's amazing that Osimhen is keeping our captain down to number 3. Maybe don't tell Lorenzo this because he might not sign the new contract. I think maturity is the big word to describe Il Nostro Capitano this season. You know, in my head I was thinking, well, maybe he hasn't quite got the same numbers that he usually gets, but actually he's got 5 goals and assists in 6 Serie A games. An XG of 3.86 in 6 games. So, you know, those stats really tell the story of a player really at the peak. I think he had a wonderful tournament for Italy over the summer. He's really carried that form on for us. And he's not just involved in those 5 goals that, he's got the stats for. Next time if you can record a game on your device or your TV or whatever, really look back over some of the build-up to some of our goals. Insigne's involved, whether it's through his movement, his pass, a couple of moves before the goal. I think he's just so much fun to watch because he's enjoying playing for the club, and I don't think we can honestly have said that's been true in the past. And the work he does defensively is just magnificent. Tracking back, there's been quite a few different occasions where he's gone back into his own penalty box to make that block or make that tackle. And, he is just such a great team player. And as many people pointed out, Spalletti's managing his minutes, which is great. But I'm sorry that you're number 3, Lorenzo. I mean, in my heart, you're number 1. Number 4 on the team sheet is our Spanish mago, Fabian. He's just woken up and smelt the coffee, the Kimbo coffee. 3 goals and assists in 6 Serie A games. They're the kind of numbers we've been asking for Fabian. I mean, the 2 goals have been fantastic. I mean, the most recent one, particularly that low finish, was glorious. He's created 13 chances in 6 games, 12 key passes, 93% pass accuracy, 64% tackle success. He's an all-action midfielder. And again, he's just happy. And he's also just becoming quite senior as well. I asked at the beginning of the season for him to step up. And he just has so much more of a presence on the pitch. I'd say he's the most in-form midfield in the league, apart from Barella. Imagine a midfield of those 2 together. Mamma mia. So he's number 4. Number 5 now, I'm going to get some criticism for this. It's a bit of a hot take. Giovanni Di Lorenzo. But hang on, he has got no goals and no assists. Been a couple of moments where he's, we conceded a goal because he's been a bit weak on crosses. I don't know, it's just that presence that he gives us on that right-hand side. He's played every minute so far, and I just want him in the team. I know, part of this is just your gut, and my gut is I want him there. I feel so much more comfortable when he's playing. And also we've had a lot of success, ahead of him on the right-hand side this season. That isn't a coincidence. He's created a very solid right-hand side, and he's also intelligent enough to create a bit of chemistry with both Politano and Lozano. I know they've been kind of rotating, but they can slot seamlessly into the team. A lot of that is actually down to Di Lorenzo's intelligence and the way that he plays the game. So people are going to shout at me, that's fine. He's my number 5. Number 6, Anguissa. He's a new signing, but he's halfway up the team sheet, so that really speaks volumes. Again, a lot of people have talked about him. I'm not gonna cover the same ground. He's a really good player. I just slightly want to curb our enthusiasm on. I mean, he's already beloved by the crowd. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love watching him play, but he is one of those players whose contribution is very easy on the eye. Those runs forward and the commitment he makes. So, and people like Di Lorenzo, their contributions are a bit more subtle and can be harder to see. So, if I was Spalletti, I'd be saying to Anguissa, I want you to match your mate in the pivot, Fabien's numbers. If those 2 can get a bit of healthy competition between the 2 of them, I think that would be really good. And they do tend to kind of take it in turns to take slightly more box-to-box approach. So that's how I would motivate him. But it's great. I mean, how many new signings would you say are the kind of, halfway up the importance of the team sheet? Now, number 7, and he's only this way down because he's only just back from injury, but Zielinski is probably my favourite player, maybe. I just love him. And he's only just back, but he's back to his recent self. I mean, he was magnificent last season. And I really liked his assist for Osimhen against Cagliari. And also, I think I haven't seen that many minutes, but just seeing how he operates now, we've got the solid pivot behind him with Anguissa and Fabienne. He's got so much more license to roam around and cause damage. Imagine you're playing in that number 10 role, knowing that you've got the best midfield partnership in the league behind you. It must be such a great feeling, and I think we're going to see some great numbers here. Now, again, what I want to see, I mentioned this ages ago, is I want to see Zielinski match Hamsik level numbers. Putting the pressure on you, but he's shown last season that he's capable of doing it and pushing on and doing even better. So if I was Spalletti, I'd be motivating him there. I'd be like, I can't actually tell you what Hamsik's best season was, but I'd be pinning that on his locker, saying, okay, at some point in the next 2-3 seasons, you're going to hit those numbers. Why not do it now? If he does, then that Scudetto. Okay, where am I? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Number 8. Sorry, Kirsten, sorry. It's Mario Rui. I mean, again, it's been covered well on the rant. He's been just so much better. Obviously, pretty sure him and Spalletti have worked together in the past. He was defensively excellent against Cagliari. Okay, and here is a stat. Here's a big stat that tells a big story. You ready for this? Mario Rui has created the same amount of chances as Fabienne this season. Mario Rui has created 13 chances in Serie A. Fabienne has created 13 chances. Both have had really good seasons. That speaks volumes. In fact, he'd probably have quite a good argument to be higher up my list. But, I have a long memory, Mario. Number 9, Rahmani. Just passes the calmness test for me that I've been talking about a few times. We just seem just so much less pazzo with him next to Koulibaly. And the big thing is, Koulibaly is the first name on the team sheet. Koulibaly plays much better with him next to him. We've got to just find the guy that's right for you. And finally it looks like we're recovering from Albiol's departure, who I think we've, dreadfully missed. Can't wait to see him develop a bit more. Rahmani, I think he's a really, really promising player. Number 10 is David Ospina. What a great run of form he's on. Fantastic against Sampdoria. We easily could have actually lost that game. Imagine if he doesn't make a couple of those saves in the first half and we go 2-1 down or 3-1 down. It's a very, very, very different picture. But let's not get too short-termist here. I think it's vital that Meret is our number one and that he settles in. I know he's been with us for a while, Meret, but we just need to give him the keys to the garage. And number 11, and this is really harsh, but it's Politano. He's been excellent, but in some ways this exercise is also about squad depth, and we're just so well covered in that area between him and Lozano. You could really toss a coin for either of them starting, and how great that we got that choice. And there's other players that aren't here who I'm sure you'll all be saying, Henry, why the hell haven't you picked this person? But that's my list. I'd quite like to see a lot of these players not play on Thursday. Let's see if Spalletti goes for the rotation. But yeah, what a great start to the season. And let's really just enjoy it. It might not go away on Thursday, but let's just, watch the matches, enjoy the football, and, enjoy the good times. Everyone take care in the meantime. And I hope you're enjoying these thoughts that I have. You can find me on Twitter at Dr. H. Bell. And Forza Napoli sempre.
All right, there you have it, Tifosi. I hope you enjoyed the chat with our frenemy today, and especially hope you enjoyed the team sheet with Il Dottore. I certainly paused it when he said to and wrote out my team sheet, and it was so much fun to compare mine to his. Did you guys do it? If you did and you'd like to share it, please do so by replying to our post on Twitter. You can find that link in the show notes wherever you're listening. We're becoming more and more interactive, guys, as the weeks go on. Don't forget, tomorrow, the Napoli-Spartak match. Ken will be live on Far From Vesuvius Twitch doing a watch-along. Also, after the match, I will be hosting the post-match live, Raffa and Raffa. And finally, look for a Roundup podcast coming out shortly after the match and the post-match with Marco Cubani D'Onofrio as host, and possibly some of us others from Far From Vesuvius. It might be him solo. We're not quite sure yet. Either way, look for that. A nice little roundup from Cubani of the Europa League match, Napoli versus Spartak. Enjoy the match, guys. See you soon. Ciao for now. As always, Forza Napoli.